All right. Hello. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Great Transition. Hello, Seth. Hello, Chris.
Hey,
Hello
Hello.
to the early birds who are already here with us, joining the chats on YouTube and Facebook. Hey, folks. Yeah. Let us know where you're watching from. Hey, Johnny from London. Um, hey, Yetzi and
Johnny
Debbie
from
and
London.
Hussein. And Cannibal from France. All right.
Nice.
Okay. Hey, Crystal from Sydney.
Crystal. Yes. Hey,
All
we still have
right.
some people on TGT
Yes.
channel today. That's good.
All right. More and more great people with great desires to rise above this planet Earth into a better place are piling up here. Okay, so we are here in the Great Transition. If this is your first time in the Great Transition, then we welcome you. We welcome all of you. We are looking at what's happening in the world through the lens of authentic Kabbalah. We're looking at this very unprecedented global shift that the world is gradually going through. We're learning what it is and exploring what it is through what's happening in the world, but with the the awesome insight of the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah. And um, and let's start with this. Every moment in life, every second of every day of your whole life, that you're not engaged in the question, what's this life for? Then the greatest Kabbalist of the previous century, Bala Sulam, says, you're drowning in the currents of life. So think about life as this stream that you're going through with all kinds of things, from fake news to real news, to fake threats, to real threats, to personal things, to global things. There's all kinds of, if you think about the collective consciousness of human society as like an, think about it. Get with me, guys. Go with me into this idea here. Okay, think about the collective consciousness of mankind as like some sort of an echo chamber. Actually, it's not just echo, it's like audio visual kind of chamber, right? So there's all kinds of blinking colors there based on different narratives that the human family is going through, right? So there's climate change, right? There's like, it's one of those things, one of those threats, one of those narratives that we're living in and we're thinking about. We see it. What else do we see in those, in the headlines, right? Like cryptocurrencies are changing the world of economics, and maybe
Race, sexuality, Russia,
exactly the
Ukraine, the climate.
transgender rights. Everything's echoing. Everything's echoing in this echo chamber, right? It's like we're all in it. What else? That there's the
Metaverse,
AI is the
AI,
metaverse. The
inflation.
robots might steal our job. We might need universal basic income. Yeah, inflation, all kinds of stuff, things, stories, narratives, and they all intertwine and integrate into this collective narrative of human society. And the Kabbalist tells us, if you're focused on that, whatever story you're now focused on right now, if that consumes you and there's no place left to ask what it's for, then you're drowning in the currents of life. You are being, in other words, distracted by the matrix. You're losing grip of the true picture of reality that is trying to get in contact with you. But the question then is, how can you live a life? How can you live a pragmatic, practical, real, down to earth, day to day life, go to work, pay the bills, read the news, be involved, live the life while always asking, what's the meaning of it? What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of living? How is that possible? Well, it turns out you can do it. It turns out that by living life on two levels, by not letting go of the ground, your feet is constantly on the ground, and you're living in this life, and you don't seclude yourself in some cave or go to some monastery and stop relating to mankind. You still live on the ground in the real world and do things that ordinary people need to do, and yet you also continuously, systematically question, what is it that you're doing here? And why are you doing it? What is the reason and purpose for all of this, for any of this? When you do that, then you begin to develop your connection to nature's ultimate purpose, to the program that runs the simulation that we're in. It's like you're living in the movie of your life while also beginning to read the script. This is possible. This is what we're doing. This is what people who practice the wisdom of Kabbalah are doing on a daily basis. And in our time, we're entering a stage where humanity as a collective society, as a collective superorganism, needs to begin to start asking this question of, why am I here? What are we doing here? What's the purpose of all of this on a global scale? And that is the essence of the great transition that we're going through in the 21st century. So welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everybody. I see we have a lot of people actually with us.
All right.
They're ready. They're ready. And they're excited. And I think, like what you said, where we have to look at the world and what's happening. Sometimes we look at the world and we see some weird things happening. If you would have looked at the world like 30 years ago, you could see maybe where it was going 100 years ago. Much less likely that you would be able to say, you saw, there's a bunch of books, what happens in the year 2000, and it's like, crazy. But some things that you read in the news today is kind of has like a sci-fi feel to it, where maybe you'll read that it's actually possible to overcome the obstacle of death if you throw enough money at it. Maybe, I don't know. But in the news recently, only reason I bring that up is because it was in the news, and everyone knows Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos, he invested about $3 billion as of like a week ago, maybe a little bit more than a week ago.
Which is not a huge deal by his standards, right?
I mean, it's really seriously not a huge deal. And the more that we try to talk about it, we can't comprehend it.
I was just thinking 3 billion was a huge deal. 3 billion is not a huge deal.
It's a big deal as far as investment.
It's all relative, right?
But I mean, yeah.
If you're gonna live forever, why not throw 5 at it though? Why just 3?
Because there's still so many other things to invest in.
I mean, throw 10 at it. I mean, if you have a chance for living forever, why hedge that?
I guess there's a risk somehow. I mean, if still losing $1 billion is still losing $1 billion.
Imagine if it doesn't work, right? Then he would have lost 3 billion.
Yeah, but
he'd also be dead.
Maybe he just need to convince his other Yuri Milner from Russia, who also funded Facebook, his other guy who invested in this biotech company called Alto Labs, if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of a popular one. You split it up. Hey, I'll invest 3 if you invest a few, and then at the end we maybe have enough money. So basically, it's a biotech company, cellular rejuvenation programming to restore cell health and resilience with the goal of reversing disease to transform medicine. So yeah, he invested $3 billion. And so there's another couple of people who invested a lot as well. So totally.
So
all
it's
in all,
called
you have
cell rejuvenation technology. That's what we're talking about.
Yes. So that's kind of what it means to aim or to fight for. Maybe somehow evading death. Because cells dying, that's death ultimately. So if you can rejuvenate your cells and never have them die, then you can win. So then here's a little quote from the page. What else can you do that can reverse the age of the body? He says, in my lab, we are ticking off the major organs and tissues, for instance, skin, muscle, and brain, to see which one we can rejuvenate. So There you go.
Mm.
That's what we got. That's the world we're living in, where people are saying, "Hey, let's go see if we can keep this body from dying or not." But it begs many questions. There's a lot of things to kind of talk about here, maybe to have a little fun with.
It does. I would say, first of all, isn't it? There's something. I mean, ironic, is ironic the word here, or is it cynical even? That the richest person in the world, as far as I understand, right? The wealthiest, richest person, billionaire in the world, has just began conquering space and commercializing space travel, and now he says, you know what, everything's going so great for me. Everything's going so great for me. Maybe I should just stay here for a little
Maybe
longer
I can just do this
than
for
I
as long as
thought to
possible. Why
begin with.
not? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of
Yeah.
sounds like, I mean, simplistically, you would say, uh, why not? I mean, if you if everything's playing, your way, and you've got a lot more money to spend here than you have years to live, then why not spend it on more years to
Imagine if he
live?
figures out how to like live forever and not die, and then somehow he loses all his fortune and becomes like this miserable person who can't die.
Well, then he becomes like everyone else in the world who doesn't want to.
Wow.
If you ask a guy on the street, a regular guy on the street, they're not going to say they want to live forever. What, I got to keep going through this for millennia?
I don't know
Living on the
about that. I think
street.
there is some. I told you 2 weeks ago about this homeless guy, or last week about this homeless guy I saw who
Yeah.
had no legs. His pant legs were like dragging through the puddles, and he was like trying to
Mm.
get change on the side of the street. There is this urge to live. At the same time, there's an urge to complain about how terrible traffic is and bills are and all the headaches and all the other
Wait,
crap.
wait. The urge to live is a different thing. I mean, there. I think I've seen and met and spoke to some people who have I mean, the survival instinct doesn't let them kill themselves, but you hear them say, "I wish I would die tomorrow." You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so that it's a very weird kind of paradoxical state that some people are in. So I don't know if they would. I'm with Chris here. I don't know if everyone would buy the living forever thing. I don't know. I mean, theoretically, yeah, why not? If someone, but that's a big question. When you really start thinking about it, that's a big question. Do we need death to feel meaning and purpose and fulfillment in life? Um,
When you're a
there's
kid,
a
I
lot
feel
of
like that's
what?
you want that more when you're a kid. Yeah. When you're a kid, I remember reading what was it? There were some books where like these kids found the fountain of youth, and it just seemed like such an adventure story. And as a kid, you're like, yeah, I want to
Mm,
do this forever. And then when you get older, you kind of see the world differently, feel the world differently. You experience sorrows and troubles more, and you kind of have to make a calculation. Do I want to experience more troubles than not? But I don't know. First of all, I don't think that we're actually gonna
well,
be able to do such a. I don't think nature will allow us to do that. That's another thing. But
well, before we get there, okay, we should go there. We should go there. But before we do, I mean, first, just to linger on this question a little bit more. I mean, uh, do people want to live forever? Is that something we want? I mean, I guess if you're told, can I live a bit more, then that's something most people would
a
take.
bit more, yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
reasonable.
okay,
A bit more.
10 years more, sure. 20, sure.
So
100,
Debbie
sure.
wrote. Debbie wrote, I have a friend who claims they want to die, but she does everything the doctors say to live. So I think it's not
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
clear.
It's
Well,
not
that's
clear.
actually
It's
what
not
that's what
clear.
happened, in the 1800s. You have people living until they're like 30, 40, right? And so you ask them, do you want to live another 10 years? Yeah, and we're actually living in that reality where we're living an extra 40 years, or give or take, right?
Hmm.
So we kind of actually have built that reality. Do we just keep extending it more and more and more and more until we Or like, wait a second,
So
what's
so it kind of goes together with the question of how long you want to live, kind of goes together with how well can I live? That's kind of the if if it's a life full of pleasure, then give me eternity, give me eternal life.
right?
If everything is not going my way, then I don't know if I want to extend this roller coaster. So clearly for Bezos, it makes sense to invest $3 billion in cell rejuvenation technology when it seems like everything's going great. He's like, it's basically like that. I have a lot of money. I don't have enough years to spend it. He just I saw an article that he's now uh I don't know where it stands, but I think he wanted or is wanting to ask Holland uh to remove or to destroy one of the bridges in Rotterdam. There you go.
Check this out. I just found it. Check this out.
There you go. What does the title say?
It's a historic bridge. It's a historic
His,
bridge. It's think about
historic
going into
bridge.
another country and be like, you guys don't need this. I'm gonna take care of this guys for you. Don't worry about. I'll
Rotterdam
dismantle
to
it.
to partly dismantle historic bridge for Jeff Bezos' super yacht. Yeah, there you
458
go.
million, by the way. Is there any other interest? Does
So
it have a picture of us? There it is. Like, there's this thing right there. Jesus, come on.
you gotta say it's cartoon level funny when you think about Bezos as like the
Yeah.
world's richest person, and now he's like, I have a space rocket. I just went to space. Now I'm gonna make money out of space. Ooh, I have a super yacht. Can everyone move, please, so I
Hey,
can drive around with my
hey,
super yacht?
remember when you
And
said?
while we're at it, I want to live forever, please. So,
Well, remember
you
when you
guys
said
take some money, start working on it. Yeah.
in your
What?
introduction, you're like, hey, we can go down all these little what was the word you used? All the little paths of
Narratives or
narratives,
yeah.
right? I feel like we just did that right now, getting sucked into Jeff Bezos' world. But I want to go,
Right.
I want to think, because it really made me think about it. When I was looking at this, it really made me think, like, why we all have this urge to evade death, but
Hmm.
on another degree, it's almost like when death comes to a person,
Hmm.
they act, or even even the weeks before, the days before, whatever, and they feel maybe like they're gonna die. It does something to you, to where you're thinking differently about the world. You're thinking you have a different perspective about reality. And if death didn't really exist, and you would never get there, you would change your whole goals and your whole your life plans and everything. So it kind of makes you think, why does it even exist in the first place? It seems like that's a really deep question. But death in general, this idea that you have this this matter that comes to life, and then it has to die. It must die as part of like the cycle. So
The
maybe there's something
introduction to
there.
the introduction to the Book of Zohar by Bala Sulam, which is a commentary on the Tree of Life by the Ari. No, sorry, the introduction to the Book of Zohar, which is an introduction to the Book of Zohar. Sorry, by Rabbi Shimon, obviously. He goes into this, and you can kind of imagine it, if you can imagine for a minute. Imagine, everyone, that you're like this infinite. You're infinite, and you never die, because that's the actual true state. So imagine you're totally infinite, and you never die, and you're eternal, and you're completely fulfilled. And then you're given a tool called the body. With that body, you get to measure things. You get to measure pain. You get to measure suffering, slaughter, war, and all of these things. But all of that body, all of those measurements are that's like your like when you measure something on a scale, for example, like an analog scale, you need the pressure on it. As much as the pressure goes down, that's as much as the needle moves. So you need to have that pressure on it in order to measure. So you're this infinite being. You're given a tool called the body. And with that tool, you're able to then measure your infinity. It actually is the tool to help you measure it. But the body itself, the whole purpose of the body I don't, this is going to sound wrong, and hopefully you guys can help me say it the right way. I don't want to say the whole purpose of the body is to suffer, but Bala Salam actually almost says something like that, that in the introduction to the Zohar, that the whole purpose of this thing is to rot, right? He says the whole purpose of it is to suffer.
I would say the purpose of it is to expire, and how much it suffers on the path, that depends on how quickly we want to rise above this level.
Okay, so yeah, the suffering, not in like a masochistic way, but it's a measurement way. As long as you, so to actually, so Jeff Bezos, he needs to understand something, and maybe we can help him, and then he can maybe give us the 3 billion, 1 billion each, and then we can figure out, different things to do.
How to use it better.
That's fair.
Yeah, but actually, anyway, Jeff, just text us if you're interested. But to make the measurement tool exist forever
Mhm.
is, he actually already is an eternal, powerful being, as powerful as all of creation. He just needs to understand how to enter into that. And this whole process of like, I want to make my tool that measures suffering and measures problems eternal, is really just a psychological, maybe distortion of where, maybe we can read the excerpt that where Bala Salam, I don't know if we can pull it up, but it's a totally different approach. And I think that even when you go back to like that search for the fountain of youth and this search for eternal life, like we're missing, if we don't have the correct education about the true nature of who we are. Because if we understood who we are, we wouldn't be trying to extend the life of the tool that is only used in order to measure our eternality. We only need that tool in order to consciously understand our true state and attain our
It's
true
also
state.
an aspect of control. It's like we want more control, and that's kind of something that contradicts this whole system that we existed anyways. Show me something that we're in control of, and then here's another thing you want to take control of. We want to control energy. We want all these different kinds of things. So we pursue after all these different things, and in the end, it kind of shows us, okay, we're looking in the wrong place. So here, it's just another concept of control. We want to be able to control something else in reality, and we can't.
Raymond says now we're talking Kabbalah. So let's do it. Let's get dirty. Let's jump into the ocean.
Well, I think it really takes us back to, if we really want to open this up, it takes us back to those two levels that we talked about for a few minutes in the very beginning of today's episode. 2 levels. That's the whole thing. There's one level that we are familiar with, one level of life, one level of existence that we're all familiar with. Everyone who's listening to this conversation right now is familiar with one level, the level of the transient, temporary body that lives and dies and gets sick and gets old. And we believe that we live as separated chunks of protein. All of us each of us is in this protein-based body, and we're all separated things, separated beings. And it lives and dies, whatever, 90 years, 100 years, 120, whatever. And maybe now with cell rejuvenation technology, it's going to be much more than that. Maybe it never dies. Maybe that's a good question. But for now, it does. And that's the level of life that we're familiar with. But there's another whole level of existence, and that's the actual reality. Reality doesn't go away. Reality doesn't expire. Reality is perfect, infinite, and eternal. And that's the actual frequency of reality, if you will, that we are not seeing, that we are not perceiving, that we are not familiar with. So if we were able to begin to glimpse at that higher frequency of life, higher frequency of existence, higher frequency of reality, where we are eternal beings, where we're connected to something that is beyond our experience of this material living and dying body. If we were able to do that, and that's exactly what Kabbalah does for us, that's exactly the kind of emotional link that Kabbalah builds in you, an emotional link to nature's goal to develop us to a sensation be above time, space, and motion, above our life and death. That's what you begin to glimpse at when you start studying Kabbalah. This wisdom changes you, builds a new vessel within you.
Asaf,
And yeah,
I
where
want to
did
show. I want to
I
show
went too
a.
far. Okay.
No, no,
You
you
said
didn't.
you said go you
No, I
said go
want you. I
Kabbalah,
want
so
you to
I
go,
went.
Kabi. I just want to show. I
I
want to
want you
show a
to go,
video, a
Kabi.
really short clip about resonant frequency, and maybe you can use this to explain what you're talking about. So tell me if you can see the screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
You see it? Okay, check
Yes.
it out.
Yeah.
So he's hitting a tuning
Where's
fork.
this from? Who's this?
Okay, so
Who,
this is from Science at Science Vids. So he's hitting a tuning fork at 512 hertz, okay, and nothing's happening on the right hand side, right?
right.
But then watch what's going to happen. Now he's going to take a different tuning fork at 440 hertz,
Yeah.
and right,
Is
A
that
lovely
magic?
example. I love that.
yeah.
I
So
love that.
it's so amazing.
Yeah. So that the other system begins to vibrate, um, based on the vibration of an adjacent system, because they vibrate on the same frequency, and you call that resonance. There's probably, if there's a physics major, they can explain that much better than I just did. But yeah, that resonance is exactly the mechanism that Kabbalists discovered that can take us to a whole other level of existence. Kabbalists call this resonance, this law of resonance, as we call it in this phenomenon. Kabbalists call this the law of equivalence of form. That's exactly what Kabbalah is all about. How to calibrate our perception so that it's in a different form, in a different frequency of perception. And then you discover that you are not just this flesh and blood body, that your consciousness goes beyond it. And this is possible. And this is systematic work that you need to do in order to develop it. And you start and you feel a little bit of it, and you lose it, and you get another glimpse, and you lose it again, and then you start, and so on and so forth. That's the practice that people who study Kabbalah regularly, that's what they're doing. That's what's happening. And so if that becomes if this level becomes accessible to you, then it doesn't make any sense to try to put that level into the body, which is what you talked about before, Seth. This is kind of like what Bezos or other billionaires, whoever is
Right,
trying
you're
to
trying to
defy
take
death, is
you're trying to
trying to
take
do.
the infinite
Yeah,
frequency and hold it in a
exactly.
finite vessel.
Yes,
What you
exactly.
need is an infinite vessel, and then you
Yes.
can feel the infinite frequency.
And how do you get an infinite vessel? You can't. Your vessel is what you have. That's what you are. What are
Oh,
we?
okay, hold on, hold on. What they're
Okay.
trying to do through cell rejuvenation is make the finite vessel into an infinite vessel, right? That's
So here's my point. Okay, you're right. We should relate that and not, still stay on the ground here a little bit. So let's answer this question. Can you do it? Is it possible, Kabbalistically thinking, is it possible that they will ever succeed in cell rejuvenation technology to the point that the body doesn't die? Ever?
I don't know. You
It
could keep
seems
swapping
like,
out the parts.
I would say, yeah, that's what I would say. Okay, it seems counter to the laws of nature. Everything has this cycle of life: birth, growth, maturation, decline, and death. You see it everywhere. You see it with every animal, every biological organism, and so on. But maybe, like you said, we could, there's all kinds of ideas. Upload your mind to the cloud, and maybe you can keep replacing the parts, and so on and so forth. So let's say that they can do it. Let's say that it's doable. I honestly, I think it might be possible to do. Then what? what would you do by that? It would still not take you to that higher frequency, to that higher reality, to the reality of eternity. You would just be artificially extending the experience of this limited reality.
It's like you
So
get to
that
play.
doesn't take you. What say it? What get to play?
It's
What?
like you're playing a video game and you get to play like, you have 10 levels and you decide I'm just going to play level 1 over and over
On
and
the
over again.
same level, yeah,
On the same
exactly.
level.
You
Yeah.
and you can still die as much as it's like you can die, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're in
God
God mode.
mode.
You're in God mode
Yeah.
on that level. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I knew
You're,
you've got
there
that
we
gamer
go.
background.
Somewhat, yeah. Um, anyway, yeah, but you never go up. And so clearly, the aspiration for eternity exists in mankind, exists in humans. We contemplate our own existence, we contemplate our own being, we contemplate the purpose of it, we think about eternity, we have an inkling and an aspiration and some sort of a desire to reveal that. Of course, in our modern times, people don't think about it so much, but it's there. It exists subconsciously in every human being. That idea, that concept, and that aspiration to it. And yet, we are trying when we're trying to feel it through the body or bring it into the body. It's like trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. And
Okay,
so,
here's
yeah.
a quote from the introduction to the Book of Zohar.
Oh, there we
by
go.
Salam.
Oh, you
Okay,
got a few
it's
words
in,
from it. It's a long item, so maybe
you
just
know,
a
I'll
few.
take I've got it's anyone who wants to check it out, you go to Kabbalahinfo. It's Introduction to the Book of Zohar. This is taken from item 17.
Maybe throw it into the chat for them too.
Okay. Okay, after I read it, I'll put it there. Our
Okay.
body, with all its trifle incidents and possessions, is not at all our real body. Our real, eternal, and complete body already exists in Ein Sof. That is, receiving in the form of bestowal, in equivalence of form, that resonance we talked about, with Ein Sof. Our work can only be done in this transitory and wasteful body. So that's where we do this work, specifically in this body. This body does not blemish us in any way, since it's destined to expire and die, and is only here for the time necessary for its cancellation and the acquisition of our eternal form.
Sounds like a pretty
Great.
clear
Great.
description.
Great. Yeah, I don't know how much we should
Whenever you say
no.
that, I want you to do it. Whenever you
No, it's just a
Don't
little
touch
precision thing.
No touch.
Don't touch that button right there.
When Kabbalists say body, they don't
Yeah.
directly talk about our physical body. They're talking about our desire to receive, which is the non-material substance that stands behind our experience. And when it's in order to receive, when it's in its initial rudimentary form, then we experience it as a body. And so just because people who might be reading these texts for the first time, they might immediately think the Kabbalists are directly talking about the body, and that's just a result of the vessel that we are made of, which is desire. I don't know if I had to add this precision now, but I did. So
let's just say like one thing. Let's just say like one small thing that we kind of need to say before we move on. I feel like we need to move on in a second. The body exists, and you have this sensation that the time is going to expire. Like you see those charts with how many weeks you have left. You've seen like those little icons of bodies. So it does something to you psychologically and internally. I guess it affects your desire. So knowing that you have death approaching gives you the feeling, it like puts you in this framework of, okay, I've got to do something with this time that I've got here. And if you took that away, what person would explore anything that has to do with something that's against their ego? So I don't know. Maybe we leave it at that.
Okay. Okay, guys, let's move on to talk about another billionaire. we're on the topic
Do
of
we talk
billionaires
about
today.
anything else besides that on the show? I don't think we do.
uh, yeah. Well, it's the nexus between billionaires' life and death, and the meaning of it all. So, okay, check this out. I'm going to share my screen here. Um, this is we're gonna. Okay, you don't see my screen yet, so give me a second here. Okay, and I think now you can see it, right?
Yeah,
You
we see it.
Good. Okay. So okay, make it even bigger. So this guy, this video is with it's in English, but it's subtitled in Hebrew here because that's where someone sent it to me from Israel here. And this is like it's coming from Nas Daily. Some of you may be familiar with. He actually does some great videos. Covering all kinds of things, typically in 1 minute. So if you're interested in watching the full video and
So I'll put Rick is
checking this,
asking if you can post the link. So when you're done, if you post the link also.
yeah, I'll post it afterwards. In any case, so Nas Daily, this guy who made the video that you're welcome to check out, made recently this video about another billionaire, and check out his story. Yeah, so there's Hebrew all over it here, but don't worry about that. You're going to hear the English. So let's just hear a few seconds.
Okay, the guy you see next to me is the most generous billionaire in the world, and I found him.
Hi, my name is Sam, and this is my story.
Sam has crazy hair. Sam is vegan. Sam sleeps 5 hours a night. Sam lives in the Bahamas with 10 roommates. Sam is 29 years old only, but Sam has $22 billion. And he wants to donate all of it to charity.
Okay.
Do it.
We're not gonna watch the whole thing, but this again, just to summarize, this dude, Sam Bankman-Fried, he's a 29-year-old billionaire, and he wants to donate everything to charity. And then he goes on to talk about how this is something that he wanted. He wanted to get rich from the moment he started thinking about what he wants to do in life, and he wanted to get rich to begin with. That's what he says, at least, specifically to donate everything to charity, like to give to everything. And now he's talking about all the different goals in this clip that he wants to contribute to, animal welfare, to climate change, to just think about the charity, and you name it, and he probably wants to.
He looks a little bit like Mark Cuban.
So maybe Mark Cuban, like the younger version. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now here's here's another excerpt. There's somewhere here he kind of summarizes his motivation or his motto for this kind of getting rich in order to give kind of mentality. So let's watch another few seconds.
The amount of good that you can do for the future of the world is really large, and it's way more than you can do to actually make yourself happy with anything like that amount of money.
And he
Okay.
What?
So you got that?
What?
Was that
What did he say?
you got that? No, that wasn't clear, or wasn't
No, he said it. I just wasn't that interested in it, so I wasn't paying full attention.
He said when you have that amount of money, it just becomes clear that the amount of good you can do is there's only so much you can benefit yourself from this money. So you kind of have to.
It's a young rich guy who realized that he wants to give to others. That's
It's,
So
and it's
what
not
do you
just him.
make
It's not
of it,
just him
guys?
either. I know there's some other billionaire children, like children of billionaires, who have that same kind of mentality. I read another
Patricia's the
article about
best. Patricia goes, Forget about donating. Teach me how to create that kind of wealth.
You know what? We'll
Exactly.
talk about that because they say in the video how he made his fortune,
course.
which
Yeah.
is that's very funny. I mean, funny, cynical. It's cynical in my perspective. But okay, let's just. Who asked it? Julie?
Patricia.
Patricia. Okay.
Patricia.
Patricia. He made his money by discovering that the Bitcoin is traded at like $11,000 or something like that in Japan, while it's traded at $10,000 in the US. So if you're able to take your money and trade it there, then there's this $1,000 gap. And based on that, he did that with more and more and more and more money, so that he was making $1 million a day just using this
Investing.
method.
Yeah,
But he
alone.
just
So yeah, if someone
he
understands
just saw
the
it.
financial
He just happened to
market
see
better,
it. Oh,
explain it instead of me. I'm not a financial expert, but
it was
basically
that easy for
it's
him.
like a what? Say it. What were you saying, Chris?
I was saying it like, how did he make his money? That's what he did, but that's not really the hard part. The hard part is seeing that that's an option, and the way they expressed it in the video was like, yeah, I just saw that it was that here it was like that, and there it was like that. I was like, that's an easy way to make money. But that's the hard. You can't really teach that. It's like the person who just has to be obsessed with it and has the smarts and stuff, like has the motivation to run.
Yeah.
And
But
how
what
many
really
billionaires
is-
did you say there were now? I mean, everyone's doing it.
How many
Go ahead.
billions does he have? He has $22
Billionaires.
billion.
No, billionaires
many-
now. You said like 20 every 26. Remember a couple of shows ago
they
you said something like that?
That was a specific statistics
COVID, I
with
thought.
regards to since COVID. Since COVID, there's like since the pandemic began until now, every 26 I can't remember, minutes or
Minutes?
something like
I
that.
think it
No,
was
every 26 hours, you said.
Every 26
every-
hours, a new
What-
billionaire is made. Or
What
something like that.
fascinates me about
Anyway,
this
yeah.
wonderful, heartwarming story is that all of the good he is doing is on the back of total environmental destruction, which is that feels good, right?
Well, explain. Say it
No,
again.
I mean it's well known now that
Mhm.
mining Bitcoin is like environmentally devastating. So,
I found some stuff. All right, keep talking.
that's
I'm
a
gonna find
huge
something.
thing.
I'm gonna show you.
I guess the point. I guess
saw
the
some stuff
point
about that.
is
Yeah.
like we talked. I mean, how many times can we talk about this on our show here? We went into once about solar panels, and because everyone wants to get into to power their house with solar now, the solar panels are being made with cheaper and cheaper materials. They have to be imported from China, and of course, the factories that are producing solar panels in China are being powered by coal, right? Or we can go to the electric vehicles. We want to get rid of carbon emissions, so we just stick children in lithium mines, barefoot children in lithium mines, to just rape the earth and take these
Right.
minerals
that's
out of
good.
the earth. So this wonderful kid, where it's very, very similar to the Bezos thing, because you see a problem and you want to solve the problem, but it works, and it works better in the past when we didn't have such a global view of the world. But now that we can understand that everything is completely interconnected.
Well, Chris is throwing some visuals.
Okay,
here
Chris,
on
what's
you,
going
so
on here? Go
Let's
full
let's
screen
see
if you
what.
could- Yeah. Okay. What do we
No,
got
I was
here?
just showing. No, I think they saw it. I was just showing that they don't like it. That people don't. The countries are
What?
saying it's way too much energy. That crypto mining, it's way too much.
Yeah,
energy.
yeah.
So they're shutting it down.
So the crypto
Seth had
mining
mentioned
again.
it.
I think it's complicated to explain. But the bottom line is energy use. That's the thing with crypto. It requires, because crypto is built on blockchain, which is essentially this complicated distributed system that replaces the need for a middleman. Then you have all of these computers constantly producing code and communicating with each other with every transaction that happens, and that code production essentially requires a lot of high computations,
Okay, so there,
computation intensive, energy intensive kind of
so this
stuff.
is from the Harvard Business Review.
There you go. You have some numbers.
Okay, it says that from the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance, Bitcoin currently consumes around 110 terawatt hours per year, about 0.5% of the global electricity production.
That's huge. That's
0.5% of all global electricity
That's
production.
just computers
And
running,
it-
basically.
and it's far from being like it's only in its beginning, like
Yeah.
right now.
So
So where are
it-
we
it
going
dr-
with this? Yeah.
It draws the equivalent to the annual energy draw of Malaysia or Sweden.
The whole
I guess
the whole
Right.
Bitcoin is built on like energy production. How much Bitcoin is based on how much energy it uses to create it. So they're directly connected, unfortunately. So if you want to make a lot of Bitcoin, although there is a ceiling, if you want to make a lot of Bitcoin, you have to use a lot of energy. So it's just not great from the beginning.
It's very, very interesting though, because we run into a situation. And if you go back to what I said about the body, that we're like this eternal we're eternal, and that everything here is just a measure. In order to measure it, you can't do anything in the physical world. You cannot get around it. You can't do anything in the physical world without paying for it, and paying for it on someone's back. The more you try and extract, did we ever talk about here? The store is open. The shopkeeper lets you take anything on.
Oh, it's a
mentioned it.
beautiful
I think we
article.
Beautiful one. I don't know if it's relevant now, but yeah, that's also from what article was that?
Isn't that the piece? Isn't that in the piece?
Paul Sloan's
No.
article, the piece.
Or it's in the piece in the world, maybe.
not
Anyway,
a piece
one
in
of
the
them.
Okay,
One of them.
so but you can't take anything.
Or is it freedom of choice? I'm sorry.
don't remember.
Okay, we'll figure it out and yeah. Okay.
Everything, there's no way out, and that's probably the one component of the revelation of the Great Transition is this psychological shift, that anything we're going to any solution that we will try and do by manipulating the earth, at one point or another we will have to pay on earth with suffering. And what we've gotten really good at doing, especially in first world countries, is exporting our suffering to other places, or maybe not even exporting. We may be exporting our trash. Maybe we'll talk about recycling, which is just also a scam, but they put the thing on there so we feel better about ourselves. So all we're really doing is postponing the inevitable, right? They put the triangle that makes you think that these things are going to be recycled. Only 8% of all plastic actually gets recycled, or 8% of recyclable
That
material.
sounds even like a lot. That sounds really high, 8%.
I think it's
But I saw the same
8.7%,
thing you
yeah.
saw too. It's like it's just a scam. You read it, you can't even the things that they said that it could do, it can't do. So it's just a lie from the beginning. Yeah.
Right. So right.
But it still gives people hope.
Exactly.
And good,
it calms you down.
It
calms you down psychologically. So I'm driving an electric car. There's no carbon. I push the problem off. I don't realize the devastation I'm doing to the earth with my electric car, with my batteries, and the whole process. So there is no way out of it. So this guy, and it really depends on how sensitive we are, because some people are more sensitive to it. And some people, it actually creates tons of anxiety because they become so sensitive. They don't want to eat anything that causes harm. They don't want to, you end up like not being able to leave the house and not being able to touch anything.
Oh, yeah,
and
it
not
can
being able to
consume
eat
you.
anything,
Yeah.
and you could see how it could really mess you up psychologically and socially, and cause all kind of social anxiety and stuff. On the other way, because you realize, oh my God, everything I touch and do, is causing problems. So but it also opens up something, that the solution is not a physical solution. And then the physical world.
No. Good. I'm just there's another aspect here that I want to bring up.
Please.
It will continue it, but look, we're looking at this from a very unique perspective, from a Kabbalistic perspective. If you look at the comments on that video, then hundreds of comments of people essentially saying, this kid's the future. That's what we need. Yes, more of these guys, please. Please, more of them. And I gotta say something. It is refreshing to see that he makes this realization on camera, and he goes like, there's only so much you can benefit yourself. With that amount of money, with that amount, you really just need to think about it, what to do, how to do good.
Well, a person with billions of dollars anyways could feel that and not give it away.
Bezos. but no, I mean, wait a second. Let me make that point. That's actually a good, when you see it back to back, Bezos, asking Rotterdam to dismantle their historic bridge so he can pass through with his yacht, and can I live forever, right? And when you juxtapose like this guy and this guy, it does seem on the face of it, at face value, like it's kind of old thinking and new thinking, old world and new world. There is something refreshing about this, I have to say.
Yeah.
And even just in that it gives people some hope, some feeling of something to hope for. Maybe, we will change our ways. Nas Daily, the guy who made the guy, he's by the way, an Arab Israeli living here. Or he doesn't live here right now, but anyway, he came from Israel. He's also doing a good job here in making giving a trendy thing, making it fashionable, making
You're
it
saying
cool.
It's trendy?
I think, I mean, when you see this video and you see the comments and you see that he took this kind of mindset of this guy and made it cool, made it shareable, I think that is refreshing. Now, will that solve the world's problems? Is money what we need? Do we need billionaires to start contributing and solving? No, that's not going to do the job. That's also, and we just spent a few minutes talking about how you take something from the system and then you give to the system on the other end, but you keep taking from it on the other side, so it's like
what the billions do here is just draws attention to it, because the quality of what he's doing is very nice. Bala Sulam continues in the introduction to the book of Zohar there, that when everyone agrees to bestow on everyone else, I think that's where it is. Is that where it is, or is the last generation? He says all the problems will go away. You have an entire world caring for you. But if some Joe, some Asaf on the street just gives away, no one's going to pay attention. So when a billionaire does it, people pay attention.
Like he's setting the trend, you mean?
Yeah, that's all it is. He's just drawing more attention to it, because forget about the billions, because as you just said, wherever you spend it, you're going to cause more problems. Inevitably, you're going to create more problems, and generating it causes more problems. But if every person had that quality of, I want to help others, I want to just take a little bit of what's mine, and I want to go out. If everyone here, and everyone times 100, and everyone times a million, and everyone in the world just said, today I'm going to go and I'm going to give a little bit of what I have to help others. And then you go outside and everyone is caring for me. The whole world is caring for me. It actually costs zero. I don't need any billions for that. If we were good enough at what we do and could communicate well enough to the entire world to convince or to inspire or entertain everyone into the feeling that giving towards the others was good, then you go outside, you have an entire world cares for you, and you're free. you're free. You don't have any worries, and you're caring for others. And all of a sudden, I don't need all this excessive consumption goes away, and everybody feels loved, and everything starts to change. We're not get it. That's not yet at spirituality, but it already starts to make a transformation on our form that you discussed at the beginning, and then eternity. At that point, we're still corporeal, limited, but it begins to open up a whole new perception for us. We start
Like
to
it's
feel,
worthwhile for us to do it like that?
even more, we start to feel. Right now, I use my brain and my five senses, but when that starts to happen, there's like that resonance we looked at before. We start to all become in that same flow into one resonance, and now we're in this global human resonance, and all of a sudden we have so much power, so much awareness, so much attainment, it's called, because we're tapping into something that's actually includes everyone, and it doesn't cost anything to do that.
It doesn't cost anything besides working on ourselves. That's the if he, it's really so simple that all we need to do, you want to make the world better, like you said, just work on wishing well for others. Just that little thing. Just that thing. Don't do anything. Don't do a thing. Don't spend a dime on any other person, but start wishing well for others. Just that. However you understand it. If you start doing that, you will start going into self-transformation. Just by that thought alone, you will already begin to have some delta between that and your actual nature that's opposite to that thought. You will be bumping against the entrance to the other layer of existence that we talked about from the beginning of the show, because that layer is where we're all receiving abundance from nature in order to bestow. That's the secret to eternal life that Bezos is after, and that's the secret to a good life for all people as well. Just working on changing our frequency, equalizing our form with that of nature's infinite circulation of abundance. It's, in other words, how Kabbalists call it, the quality of bestowal. And when we think about being the bags of desire that we are, being desire, all we want is to receive, and that's fine. But if we begin to direct our reception for bestowing to all of reality, to everything that's outside of us, whether it's humanity, the rest of nature, whatever it is, maybe even the source of abundance itself, if we aim our frequency, our intention, as Kabbalists call it, towards that quality of bestowal, and we want everything that we receive to be for the sake of the whole system, then we begin to break through the illusion of the material world, literally. And then we'll see that there is no, while it seems like money runs the world, and it's true on our level of experience, it seems like we're all pieces of matter, and that's all there is. We will discover the same reality, but a whole different version of it, a layer of it that is beneath this superficial temporary existence that we're familiar with. And in that reality, the abundance is circulating, reality is integrated, everyone are pieces of the same being, and that's called life. Kesef, by the way, is the Hebrew word for money. And that's interesting by itself. I'm just going to throw a few thoughts about it for our friends here, but I'm not going to expand on this. But it's interesting. I mean, the reason that money runs the world is because it's a replica of what's happening in the true structure of reality. In the true structure of reality, there's also a concept of money that connects all the pieces of the created being, which is us, all of the pieces of the collective soul. That money, that spiritual money, is, and again, money comes from the word kesef, which refers to masach, kisufa. I'm not going to go into the etymological explanation now, right? But essentially, it's every piece's intention to do good to all the others, only to that extent that a part of the created being has that intention to bestow to the others, it can then receive to the extent that it wants to bestow to the others. And that's how all the spiritual reality is revealed to us. We discover ourselves as integrated parts of the same created being, and we're all in a connection where we have spiritual money, meaning where we have the ability, the intention to bestow upon the whole system, and that allows us to pass the abundance through us to the rest of the system. We live in a circulation of abundance, and that's why in that perception, there's no life and death. There is no time and space. There's just endless light fulfilling a vessel that it's created. But that's more on that on another time. We're out of time here.
Are we
in this world? We're out of time.
Our real, eternal, and complete body already exists in Ein Sof, that is receiving in the form of bestowal and in equivalence of form with Ein Sof. That's where we're headed, everybody. We're going through the great transition. We'll be with you again next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, where we will explore what's going on in the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We are so happy to have you with us. We love seeing you coming from all over the world and joining in our conversations. We're reading your comments. We read them as much as we can during the show. We read them after the show. We analyze them. We try and think of how we can come up with more interesting topics, better topics, to open up the lens to who we really are. And everything is in our hands. Everything is in our hands. Our good future is in our hands. We're not waiting for any billionaires. We're not waiting for any politicians. We're not waiting for them to open the bridge or create a science something to make our cells last forever. We can do it in our lives, and we look forward to doing it with you. See you next week. Bye, Asaf. Bye, Chris.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
We wanna know what makes your heart sing. We do. We wanna know, does connection get you boiling? We do. We want you to know, did you make our heart sing? You do. And we need you to know, this connection got us boiling. You do. We come to tell you of the future. Teach love by one and all. We spend our days doing good to others, and we all come to be as one. We wanna know, do we make your heart sing? We do. We wanna know if we can sing this love song to you. We want you to know that you make our heart sing. You do. And we need you to know